Season 11 dropped a couple of weeks ago, and of course there have been some changes to quests, but since I've been working on some of the old commendations, it seemed like the perfect time to cover what has changed and what hasn't for some of the more tedious Order of Souls commendations. I remember when my crewmate used to jump off of our ship to defeat any captain that he saw at a random island, and the reason was for the Hunter of Cursed Captains commendation, which requires you to defeat 1,000 skeleton captains. But after someone told us that the random captains don't count for this commendation, we wanted to test it out, and we recently completed the Legend of Sea of Thieves commendation after sinking 500 skeleton ships without really grinding for it, so we assumed that all of these other commendations would come to us pretty casually as well. But when we looked at our numbers, we realized that we had a really long way to go, and then there was this anomaly of the Hunter of Cursed Crews commendation, and that raised another question. What is a cursed crew? So we wanted some answers for these commendations and for a few others that we've been neglecting, like what counts as a completed voyage and how are nautical miles tracked while on a voyage. Here's what we learned. For the Hunter of Cursed Captains, obviously if you vote on a bounty voyage at your voyage table, those captains will count towards your 1,000 Cursed Captains. And it doesn't matter whether you are the one defeating the captain or if a member of your crew defeats the captain. And now in Season 11, you don't have to spend 10 minutes or more searching for your captains on larger islands because the orders are going to give you the locations for where to find your captains. After quite a bit of testing, we did confirm that randomly generated captains at islands and captains that generate at world events like the FOF will not count toward the 1,000 captains. And the same goes for randomly generated captains on skeleton ships, and these guys don't even get to have names. However, captains from bounty quests discovered in bottles and captains from emissary quests do count toward the 1,000 cursed captains. So the rule seems to be that for the captain to count toward the 1,000 cursed captains, you will need to have the bounty quest show up in your quest wheel. And a couple of things to note about Season 11. Discovered quests can no longer be found in barrels. With Season 11, you can also no longer stack emissary quests because you will lose them if you vote to lower your emissary flag or if your boat sinks. Now, back to that question about the Hunter of Cursed Crews commendation. Initially, I thought the Cursed Crews would be the waves of skeletons that we fought before the skeleton captains spawned during the bounty voyages, but I was wrong. As our captains were being defeated, the numbers just weren't adding up, and eventually my crewmate noticed that not all captains on bounty voyages had the title of captain. So after a lot of testing, we confirmed that the skeletons on the orders without the title of captain are the Cursed Crews. So to put it simply, the little red title above the skelly does not mean it is a captain, which makes sense because the Ashen Guardians and Ashen Keymasters don't count as captains or crew. Thankfully with Season 11, you have unlimited quests at your disposal, and you can choose between a bounty with 3 captains or a bounty with 1 crew, and you can still find mixed quests in bottles. Also, when you grab your emissary quests now, you won't get 4 emissary quests with a total of 16 captains anymore. Instead, you will get 2 quests with 1 crew each and 2 quests with 3 captains each. Now, moving on to what types of voyages count toward the Order of Souls voyages completed. It seems like this should be pretty obvious, but surprisingly it was not. If you're like us and thought that the old commissioned voyage or the medley voyage would mean that you're about to complete multiple voyages because it fills your quest wheel, you'd be wrong. You would have to complete every single quest associated with the voyage for it to count as one single voyage. And it does get the job done, it just isn't very time efficient. Unfortunately, emissary quests, bottle quests, and diving to raids or world events will not count toward the Order of Souls voyages completed. You have to use your quest table to vote for any bounty under the bounty category. And now this also includes the bounties for lords. Or you could vote for a ghost ship battle voyage, not the world event, but the actual voyage. And of course there is also the time-consuming medley voyage if you want to use that to work toward this commendation. As long as you vote in one of these 3 categories, you can either sail or dive to them for the voyage credit. So we've been working on all of these voyages, and there's still this pesky commendation for sailing 1,000 miles while on an Order of Souls bounty voyage. This does not mean raising an Order of Souls emissary flag. You don't have to have an emissary flag raised at all for this one. You just need to be sailing on an approved Order of Souls voyage. Not a dive, not a world event, not a bottle quest, not even an emissary quest. It must be a voted voyage. And make sure Ramsey isn't on your ship demanding for you to give it a makeover. That really seemed to bug it out for us. We ended up having to do some pretty extensive testing for the nautical miles because there seemed to be some sort of a lag, and so we weren't always sure if the miles weren't adding up because of the lag or because it wasn't adding up for a reason. So eventually we were able to work out a rough estimate of 1 nautical mile equaling about 3.5 map squares. And if you have your season notifications on, you can be notified every time the server catches up to indicate that you've sailed 1 nautical mile if you want to see this for yourself. And ignore this first page of your captain's log showing the ship's history. These miles are not calculated the same as they are anywhere else. They don't add up or make any sense. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Trust me. As for the specifics, your pirate will need to be on your ship while you're sailing on your voyage. If you are sailing, your nautical miles will increase because you're on your ship, but your crewmate will not gain those miles if he's just relaxing on some island. Also, rowing a rowboat or swimming will not increase your miles for this commendation, whether you go 3.5 map squares or 8 map squares. Now that Season 11 has given us something to work toward again, like the little plushies and the distinctions, it wouldn't be a bad idea to knock out some of these more tedious commendations. My personal recommendation is to start somewhere pretty, like the Shores of Plenty or the Ancient Isles for the views. Then raise your Order of Souls flag, vote for the Captain Bounty Voyage, and drop your sails. Our experience has been that it takes about 6 voyages to reach Grade 5, or less if you get attacked by constant, unrelenting PvE, or if you touch everything you can. Once you reach Grade 5, grab your emissary quests, but do not lower your flag until you have completed all of your emissary quests. Then lower your flag, rinse, and repeat. 1 round of this should net you a total of 18 captains with the first 6 voyages, and then an additional 6 captains and 2 crews from the emissary quests. And please don't ask me about the miles, they will vary and they don't always add up the right way, so don't get me started. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing any of these quests in the Devil's Roar for a peaceful experience, but the geysers are extremely helpful in defeating skelly waves as long as you can avoid stepping on them yourself. The biggest advantage for us was that it seemed like the voyages were only a few map squares away from where we voted each of them down, meaning that we could knock out some of the voyages, crews, and captains relatively quickly. TLDR version. If you want the title to go along with your Nightfall Hunter outfits, you have to have a Captain Bounty quest in your quest wheel. You can get these from bottle quests, emissary quests, and from voting at your voyage table. The same is true for cursed crews. Just remember that you can tell the difference between a cursed captain and a cursed crew based on whether or not they have the title of captain in their name. If you are working toward completing the Order of Souls voyages, you need to vote on the bounties at your quest table. If you have finished with all of these but still just need the miles, use your quest table to vote on an Order of Souls bounty voyage and then sail around doing literally anything else while the miles add up. And don't forget to be a pirate. Give yourself permission to get sidetracked to keep the adventure alive. Wherever you are in your pirate journey, I hope that some of these tips can help you to achieve some of these more tedious commendations. If any of this was helpful, please like, share, comment, or subscribe. I'm always accepting new subscribers. I had a lot of fun experimenting with the details of these commendations, and I plan to find some new ones for future videos. Thank you so much for watching.
Did you stick my fireballs? No, you don't. Is that you? Can you get me, please?
No.
Good. I feel like you did that on purpose. Oh! Let's see who killed me. Wait a minute, I'm not getting any light from here. Was that you?
It was an accident.